Well, again, this is the Colorado Citizens Observers Project. It's a project of the League of Women Voters, and we have other partners that we'll tell you about in a minute. The idea of the project is an effort to train citizens to observe government meetings and share nonpartisan information with the public and news media. Our goals are to increase local government transparency in Larimer County, boost civic engagement for diverse citizens, share actionable information with communities of interest, and build lasting community partnerships for the League here in Larimer County. This is a pilot project, so we began in late October organizing the partners, and the goal is really to learn what does it take to build a program like this. As a pilot, we are experimenting, we're trying new things. Although this one has roots in the League of Women Voters existing observer program and another, we're doing things a little bit differently. And that is really focusing on creating unique public records beyond note-taking. We're going to be trying to get audio and video of these meetings as well, because that's a verifiable information so people can trust what we say. So the project concept comes down to this. Local government bodies hold thousands of public meetings every day, but the vast majority receive no media coverage and produce minimal records. And these are important spaces that democracy is going unwatched. So one of the solutions is to train and pay people to attend these meetings and publish the results in collaboration with local journalists and community organizations. The project concept, as I mentioned, it was rooted in the Observer program that is in lots of different chapters of League of Women Voters across the country. And then the other one, it's rooted in this project called documenters.org. And right now they're in 7 cities, they're expanding, they're well-funded, and they have affiliate programs that are very comprehensive. And so you can apply to be a documenter site, and it comes with a whole website and backend and training and a plan to get going. And so they're rapidly expanding over the last couple of years. They've received quite a bit of funding, grant funding.
In fact, $10 million last year. Maybe even hundreds.
So I'm just going to play this.
They're important spaces for democracy, where anyone can drop in and have a voice in local government. What happens in those meetings affects your everyday life, but there are so many hosted by all different agencies. And it's hard to keep up with all of them. Some are covered by local news, but a lot of them aren't. Some publish agendas, official votes, and their own meeting notes, but a lot of them don't. Some are canceled, and nobody even notices. And all the information is split up on different websites, a lot that are hard to find or not updated regularly. At documenters.org, we're collecting and standardizing all this information so you can access it anytime. And we host free trainings and pay you to attend these meetings and take notes. Together, we're creating a new public record to shine a light on decisions being made in our city, because you deserve to know. Documenters.org.
So Documenters is a partner in this project, and I thought their video was a good summary. We are kind of in this pilot combining the Documenters program with the observers. And that's what makes this pilot different. We're looking at scalable models. So how do you build the technology and the training so that you can go from 5 people to 40? And how long is that going to take? Building inclusive partnerships across media, community, and other people of interest that want to be a part of this. We're looking to recruit and pay people from all kinds of backgrounds. We're also paying people, which is different. Observers does that. The traditional Observer Corps was volunteer. We're experimenting with workflows. And again, as I mentioned, this audio visual aspect of the meeting recordings is creating a unique record that's verifiable. And so that's a really important part of our project. I've also created a lot of range of roles. So you can find a way that fits in, that meets your schedule versus just being one thing, which is like going to meeting in person and taking notes. And I'll show you that in a minute. And then our distribution of content is coming through our website, but we also have partnerships with media and nonprofit groups who will share stories of interest. And so now Sonia is going to tell you a little bit about the partners in this project.
Okay, I'll just go quickly through it. Gates Family Foundation has funded this pilot, and that's not Bill and Melinda. That's a foundation that's Denver-based from Gates Rubber. They're very involved, and they're also involved in the Colorado Media Project as a partner for us. Colorado Media is doing a lot to help journalism in our state, particularly. Lots of projects boosting local journalism. Open Media Foundation, another partner for us. They're exceptional for helping anyone who wants to level up their voice through media. So if you're a nonprofit and you'd like to be made or having access somehow, they help with that. They do a lot of other things too. They have a good job board for journalism and media type of jobs. The Colorado Freedom of Information Coalition has long been a partner with the League of Women Voters. And in our state, we have Jeff Roberts, who was heading the Colorado chapter. He's now leveled up to national. So we're pleased to have that connection. And they help us with sunshine laws. And Jeff has a team of legal experts who are always helping with any little discrepancy. If you feel unwelcome in a meeting, if things got shut down, if you were trying to get information at a courthouse, you couldn't get it, and so on. They're the muscle behind our voice. Colorado Press Association, you can imagine that that is a really nice piece to this, because this means that we already have people waiting for us to give us some news. We're not going to create this and then say, you know, wouldn't you want it? We're already dialoguing with what would you want. So as we roll this out, they'll be looking and helping us to make it so it could be usable for the news industry in our state. Though Lee will always say, we're doing this either way. We do this for the people, and we hope to bring news aboard to help them as well. The CSU Center for Public Deliberation. Some of you have heard of the Deliberative Journalism Project, and that is part of this. So Martine Carcassonne leads the Center for Public Deliberation, and they too are trying to help some of the things that have been happening with journalism lately. So we're connected to CSU, and then documenters.org that you heard about. And I think we have a couple people in the Zoom room that are from these organizations. Do we have, is Alfonso there to say something about Open Media Foundation? There he is.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alfonso. I'm with the Open Media Foundation. And we've been working towards government transparency directly with governments for the past 10 years. So when this opportunity came up to work with actual citizens, we jumped on the opportunity. Hopefully our software as a service platform will add the part to this pilot program that you're looking for, the audiovisual part. And yeah, that's all we do with the software as a service.
And we have Jeff's in the room, Jeff Roberts. Colorado Freedom of Information Coalition.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm Jeff Roberts. I'm the executive director of the Colorado Freedom of Information Coalition. CFOIC is a nonprofit that educates Coloradans about their rights under Colorado's open government laws. So the two public records laws, the open meetings law, court access rules, things like that. And we also advocate for government transparency. And our role in this project primarily will be as a trainer, helping people who are participating in the project to understand the open meetings law, the CORA, that type of thing, and be a resource for them when needed.
And then we also have Rachel from the Colorado Press Association.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Pekarsky. I'm the Partnerships Manager at the Colorado Press Association. Really excited to be a part of this project. Our main role, besides being a facilitator with these meetings and just ongoing support for January in the League, is we are also providing a training for the documenters when they are recruited. It's called earnyourpresspass.com, and it's kind of like a crash course into how to be a citizen journalist, and we're focusing on the ethics part. Happy to be here. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Now, do you want to talk more about the league? Of course, the primary partner in this project.
So is everyone in the room a member of League of Women Voters? Okay. Okay, well, I've created a pretty short video about the league. And if you are a member, please, we're open to, if you learned anything from it, you liked it, you didn't like it, and you will learn if you are not a member. So let's go ahead and.
Also notice as you listen to this, the main thing about the league as it applies here is that we are a nonpartisan group and we will stay that way. That doesn't mean that you're not political, but as you are observing, you are not supporting any candidates or any office.
The next few minutes offer an overview of what it means to be a member of the League of Women Voters.
The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan grassroots organization working to protect and expand voting rights. We aim to ensure everyone is represented in our democracy. We empower voters and defend democracy through advocacy, education, and litigation at the local, state, and national levels.
This began in 1920, after multiple states had guaranteed the right to vote to white women who were citizens of the United States. It became clear that the federal government would follow suit. Suffragists had fought for this right for decades. Following the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, they turned their attention to educating the many new voters. Access to news and election issues were very limited at the time. This national effort of the League of Women Voters rose from Chicago. Today, the League of Women Voters operates with 3 levels of organization: national, state, and local communities. Its numbers continue to grow. The Colorado League began in 1928 and has leagues in 19 communities across our state. Most are defined by county.
The vision of the League is a democracy where every person has the desire, the right, the knowledge, and the confidence to participate in civic ideals and elections. Our call to action is making democracy work. Since its founding, the League has been a nonpartisan organization and does not support or oppose candidates or political parties at any level of government. We're known for our voter service, which includes voter registration, candidate and ballot issue forums at election time, and the website Vote 411, where voters can access ballot information from the federal on down to the local level. Membership in the League of Women Voters is open to people 16 years of age or older who support our mission. The League offers membership with an aim to help 16-year-olds who get driver's licenses to prepare to enter civic participation when they come of voting age at 18. In 1974, the organization opened full membership to men.
The League of Women Voters is committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion in principle and practice. Participation without barriers of any sort is central to the League's current and future success in engaging all individuals, households, communities, and policymakers in working toward a more ideal democracy. The League is also dedicated to member study and consensus on issues of public policy. Some of the topics we study include healthcare, election reform, the climate crisis, news access and literacy, and affordable housing. After studying consensus to develop a position, the League may work to influence public policy through advocacy. Our voice is unified and respected, with League leaders testifying on our behalf in Congress, at the state legislature, and before county and municipal officials.
Decade after decade, the League of Women Voters has advocated for significant legislation and public policy. An early success at a national level came after World War II. President Franklin Roosevelt asked the League of Women Voters to help establish the role of the United States at the beginning of the United Nations. We were one of the first non-governmental organizations recognized as a part of the United Nations Charter Conference. Today, we remain official observers at the UN. In 1960, the League of Women Voters began the first televised presidential debates. However, as the candidates demanded more partisan conditions, the League withdrew its sponsorship in 1988. But leagues around the country continue to hold debates and forums for state and local offices. In 1966, we supported passage of the Federal Freedom of Information Act and the Sunshine Act in 1976.
In 1993, the League helped to pass the National Voter Registration Act. This enables citizens to register to vote at motor vehicle agencies automatically when they apply for driver's licenses, as well as by mail and at other agencies serving the public. The League of Women Voters has long advocated reproductive freedom of choice, and in 2010, we supported healthcare reform with the Affordable Care Act. In 2019, the League of Women Voters of the United States coordinated an effort to create fair and transparent redistricting. This would eliminate partisan and racial gerrymandering nationwide.
In Colorado, we've contributed to our state's governance in significant ways. We support selection of judges by merit-based appointment rather than by political ticket. We recommend that politicians not be allowed to buy their own elections. We support Colorado's commitment to the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. The League is a member of the nonpartisan Colorado Freedom of Information Coalition, promoting freedom of the press, open courts, and open access to government records and meetings. This underpins our ongoing role as government observers. Also in Colorado, we help pass ranked choice voting on several municipal ballots. And in year-round education efforts, we continue to offer study of international relations for school groups. This is based on the widely respected series of books called Great Decisions, published by the Foreign Policy Association. This is just some of the examples on how citizens participate in their governance with the help of our organization. Members are curious about the intersection of government with our environment, culture, health, employment, and schools.
Today, news sources are shrinking in most communities, and many citizens receive misinformation. Because of our new interest in news access and literacy, we're now giving attention to underreported government meetings. When government decision-making is transparent, greater understanding and better accountability can result. Public policy begins in many government meetings that now take place without witness. The Observer Project is a simple idea born from the decline of traditional news outlets, as well as the challenges of journalism in funding and public trust. We are building a new path to increase direct participation of citizens in government. This is also likely to increase the understanding of public policy issues. We plan to elevate our history of observing government at all levels to a more public-facing outlet. With success, we will offer our plan to more communities.
The League of Women Voters offers diverse opportunities to learn about your government and share ideas with your neighbors. We welcome you aboard and look forward to seeing the ways you'd like to participate in League.
We're going to cut it because people online cannot hear it. So they're not hearing it, and then people next door apparently are hearing it. But this recording is on the website, so anybody can click it there and listen to the rest of it. And I'm happy to take any questions if anybody has a question about the League and why we're doing this. Which I could say government transparency and civic engagement are front and center. I think that's clear.
Yeah, well, we can go ahead and move on. Let me just make sure we are good there on Zoom as well. So they could hear on Zoom. It was just,
Okay.
I can't control the volume from my computer in here, so.
Okay, well, it is on the website for us.
It
so.
definitely is on the website. All right, well, let's go ahead and go to like more of the full introduction so you can understand about the roles of observers and how things are working. First, I'm just going to give you a little update on the timeline about what we've been doing. So the project was funded last summer, and then I was hired in October. And then we really have been doing planning and building the project infrastructure for the last few months. In 2023, this is our timeline. We spent earlier this year doing media outreach, getting feedback, creating the infrastructure for managing reports and the website, which I'll show you here in a minute. So I guess we're in this section now, and then the project will end in July for this pilot. So the observers. Why should I be an observer? Well, it's meaningful work that matters to your community. You'll learn about civic processes, meet interesting people. You'll gain a better understanding of your legal rights to meeting and how to meetings, to public information, and how to gain that access. You'll also get some principles of journalism, ethics in journalism, writing, and then some useful skills like note-taking, learning some software applications, and learning more about audio and video recording as we create our unique record. So what do observers do? Well, our goal is to get nonpartisan, accurate reports from meetings. Beyond writing a meeting summary, this might include live tweeting or recording video or audio. We're trying to accommodate different skill sets and the availability of working people. So we have options for remote and in-person participation. We're going to try to match observers in the program with the best fit for their skills, interests, and availability. Observers may have multiple roles and they may be paired with others for assignments. It is a pilot, and so we are open to working with people to meet them where they're at to get that final report. So meetings that are going to be observed, there's nearly 100 different government meetings that happen throughout Larimer County, whether it's on a town level or a county level or a special district, including school boards. We have some meetings that we'll suggest that we think needs more community exposure and ones that match your interest. But we really aim to try to get a sampling across the county and try to get somebody at each of these towns, a school district, and some Larimer County government meetings. So we have up to 20 positions, maybe more, who can participate. And it'll be on a per meeting basis from April to July. You'll receive a stipend for training, meeting attendance, and documentation and final reporting. We do have some room for volunteers as well. We're just not sure how many people are going to participate. So we're flexible about how that's going to work. We have training that will be self-paced with video modules, and then we'll have some virtual meeting sessions as well to help set people up, but a lot of it will end up being on the job learning. So what kind of training? Well, we have the league orientation, the program general orientation, and then a deep dive into how government meetings work. It's really important to understand because we're talking about multiple levels of government, and the procedures that happen within those boards and commissions can vary. We have information about open meeting and sunshine laws and the Colorado Open Records Act. As Rachel mentioned, we have this program called Earn Your Press Pass, where you'll learn about ethics and reporting, and then you can have an option to take more of their modules. If you become an observer, you get free access to that online training. Of course, we'll be learning about our observer workflows, which we'll see in a minute, how to write a meeting report, and then for the AV part, how to stream, record, and log a meeting. The log part, I'll explain in a minute, but there's a lot of potential metadata that will allow us to do keyword searching of our recordings. That'll be critical for journalists to be able to verify our information. And then how to edit and blog. So these are some of the multiple roles that happen. Not everyone will get trained, let's say, on the last two. It depends on what your interests and skill sets are and how you want to participate. So this is a summary of the main roles that go into creating this final report. Whatever we have, let's say we assign a meeting and we only have an in-person observer who wants to do notes, then we may just fill in what roles we need, me or others as an editor or as the logger, as the reporter, to pull all that information together to get kind of our dream report. And our dream report is going to be a 2-paragraph summary of what happened at the meeting, factual, the meeting notes, which will be more detailed, the links to the agenda and the meeting packets, the AV recording, and the meeting transcript. These are all things that put together will create this final report that's kind of our ideal version of getting good information to people. So just briefly about project technology, and I'll show you the website. We have a project website that's kind of the nexus of where people are going to interact with us. We have our information homepage that you may see, but also there's members only section. And within that website is also our blog where we'll put our reports. And you'll also be able to search video from the Open Media Foundation site. That's the blog, Open Media website. This is what Alfonso was talking about as the software as a service. So it's basically a video streaming platform that you can add a lot of information to. So you can search video like you would search a document. We're using Google Docs as the back end of the project. And of course, phones, tablets, or laptops will be used to do the meeting recordings and of course your notes and anything else you need to do. So now we'll go to the project website. And Let me zoom, see if I can get it bigger. So this is the main project website. You may have seen this. This kind of explains it, but I'm going to show you what our other modules are, so you kind of see like where it's going, right? And then we'll get into more about how to do meeting notes and what are those steps. So this is where we'll be reporting out and then directing people to see our stories. Each meeting will have a blog post that will be about the meeting. And in an ideal situation, each of these will have a summary like this. And then we're going to include, like I said, the notes in the transcript that we create, the agenda, the meeting packet, and then the video recording will be embedded here. There's also another way to browse this information, because once we build up our library of videos, there's a search interface for the videos that's provided by the Open Media Foundation. And so in this interface, we have a test video up here, but what you can do is this will search all the captions, right, which is the transcript. It'll search the agendas and it'll search to find these keywords. So let's say we say, we're going to look for sunshine, right? Sunshine laws. The results will come up and it'll take us right to that point in the video, right? So we can go right to those keywords. So then when we click this up above, the YouTube player is going to go to where he talks about that in the video, right? So this is that same clip where that is mentioned. So that key searching, the keyword searchability is one of the critical aspects that we've heard from talking to media partners about the verification they need to believe our reports, right? Another aspect of the website that you'll have access to as a participant, there's a training part of the website. And so once you enter this, there are different training modules you'll go through. You'll often watch a video or look at a PowerPoint presentation and then answer a couple of questions about that. Those will be around those areas I mentioned earlier, like ethics, right? Or how to write a meeting report, or how to understand local government. All those are going to be in there. There'll be about 8, and it'll be at your own pace. You can complete them when you want. And then we'll also pair that with in-person training sessions and a little bit more mentoring for individual people to get that final report like we want. So this is our workflow. When you join the observers, you will be logging in. You see this, there's going to be a login up here. I'm logged in right now, so I can see this page. Otherwise, you can't see this page or the content. But this is basically the place where everyone's going to go to get the information they need, find the meetings, input their report, and share their notes. So let me show you first our assignment sheet. So the assignment sheet is kind of the heart of the whole project. This is where we'll write down what meetings are happening, provide background information, and then assign observers. So it's going to do multiple things. People will have access to this. But if you go in here, right now, I've pre-populated it. These are 2 meetings that already happened, but there's video recordings of them. So if people want to kind of test it out and see how the process works, they could watch these that are already streaming on YouTube, take a shot at the notes, use our meeting input form. And then these are ones that are upcoming. And so maybe would be good candidates for people that want to do a first assignment. This will be the nexus of how you get assignments. We try to populate it with as much information as you can. But the process of doing your pre-research will also come from this. So there'll be a link to their website and the agenda for the upcoming meeting. And so you can find any kind of background information that you want. And I'll show you more details about that process in a minute. But then it's also going to be where we assign people and then where we share the final links when things are completed. So this is kind of managing the project and the people and making sure we're covering those meetings that we want to. Now, there are a lot of meetings, and so some people can cover them virtually or in person. I'll just give you an example, though. For example, this is the City of Fort Collins website, and many do not record the meeting, right? It's really the Planning Commission and the City Council. So you can see here from the icons, the only ones that are recording the City Council work sessions, those are regularly recorded, but all these are going on without any recording of it. You just get the minutes when they finish them, right? And so that's part of the problem we're trying to address, is create a public record in a timely fashion after these things happen for these underreported organizations that are spending money, advising city council, whatever role they have information that could be shared.
Verify something, because I've been on several of these commissions. The ones where you're getting information are quasi-judicial. So they have a responsibility to make decisions. The rest are all advisory. They have absolute authority. So I think that's the difference. But honestly, if you want them to report it, I think they would. Because they're also doing, oh, that's good. Say that again. Some are only advisory. Yes, most of these, anything that's board is just there for advisory. It's citizens who want to hear what's going on about an issue and offer thoughts. When one's where it is reported, have a decision. The plan and zoning, historic preservation committee, city council.
So, yes, someone in the room was just sharing that they've participated in these boards and about there are different levels of boards and what their functions are. I wasn't going to get in that today because there's like 4 or 5 different kinds and it gets a little complicated.
I just want to mention that because that's what I.
Yeah, but beyond the city of Fort Collins, technically in Colorado municipal government, there are 4 to 5 different classifications of different kinds of boards. So that is part of the training too, to kind of understand that and your research, because you need to understand the decision-making authority of, the meeting that you're going to, so you know impact, right?
I could also add that when we talk to people of documenters, we're told this is not an adversarial. We're not like, showing up and like, we're here. We're generally welcome into the room. Most of the documenters, people are like, oh my gosh, no one ever paid attention, come ahead. So it's a friendly thing. We're not putting people in a position to have to like be the orders on shoving up. No. We're mute, really. You must be mute when you enter the meeting space. So very different than a paid reporter.
Yeah, and I can get into some of those details about how to cover a meeting. I have that prepared for us, but I just wanted to give a little orientation to the website and the workflow. So this is the meeting assignment sheet that we saw. And oh, here we are, we're on this page. There we go. And so we have a whole Google Doc structure that we'll be using, and we will be orienting and training people on how to use those. But really, I put most of the links. If you can get to this page, you can find everything you need. Okay. And so like, that's when you get your assignment, you'll get the links, you can do a little pre-research. When you complete your notes, this is a folder where you'll put your completed notes. We'll look at in a second, is the meeting notes template and examples to give you guidance on how to take notes during the meeting and what the process is. And this is our report input form. So after you do your meeting notes, you'll go through this form to submit your information for us. As the editor, one of my roles, I'm coordinating, like if somebody else was recording and you wrote the meeting notes. And so I need these forms so we can keep all the information together and make that report package from multiple pieces. And so this is the form. It's not very complicated. It's also how you record your time, about how much time you spent. And so you can be compensated for that. So it's really some hyperlinks, some basic questions about transparency and meeting process. And then you'll work on a 2-paragraph meeting summary, link your notes document here and any other relevant links, and then a place to add comments or issues or questions that you have. And I'll explain more about that process because you're not totally on your own here filling out this form. Okay, back to this. So I wanted to explain more about the potential roles for people and how they can participate. So the meeting observers, these are the ones that are actually going and doing the note taking. And we have options that you could do this in person or you could do it remote. Some of the meetings are live streamed, and you can do it in real time, or maybe they post it the next day and you could still get a report. So we want to be flexible to work with people and meet them where they're at, so we can just get good information and then round out the edges of whatever we need to fill out that full report. And so this is a high level view of the process. I'll go through that again. But basically, here's the process. You get a meeting assignment, you do your pre-research, you go and observe the meeting, you provide a notes summary within 48 hours of the meeting. You'll meet with an editor to look at your notes and find important points and really get to that summary that's going to be kind of the meat of the blog post, which is that quick 2-paragraph thing to understand what happened that was important. You'll use the meeting report form to input it. The editor is going to review. They may ask for revisions, but that's kind of that one-on-one process that happens after you submit your first drafts. And then there's a final submission for the report blog. We also have roles for people doing recording the meeting with video or audio, and then also logging. So recorders are going to capture the audio and video from the meeting. It could possibly be live streamed if you're up to that, or just recording to a device and then shared back with us later to create that transcript and have the logger deal with that audio visual file. So that's the logger's role. It's someone who likes this technology, is going to use the open media website platform to add metadata and really make that video searchable like we want. And so that is a second role. The same person could do both these roles, but we've tried to split it out to just make it a little bit more accessible.
And recording meetings, that could be just your phone on a tripod.
Yes, and with your phone, I mean, the key thing with recording, we'd love video, but we really need good audio to get that transcript. So you can put your phone by a speaker. It's going to depend on the room you're in, and we definitely will work with people to figure out that situation before they go in, based on what we know about the rooms and the meetings.
Be intimidated. we're gonna make it work.
And it does work. You know, the documenters always record audio just so you have verification for your own notes. And you'll see that in the process here listed as well. So yes, that's an overview of kind of what happens with the meeting recorder, and everything's being coordinated through Google Docs in this meeting assignment sheet. So I can pull all the pieces together to get that final post. The meeting logger, again, they're working with a little bit more technology. And then we have editors and bloggers. So if you want to meet with the observers, help get that 2-paragraph summary, help figure out the notes, that's a role we would love to have people in. And also with blogging, you'll be posting to the website and also sending out like we have a newsletter, basically an update or bi-weekly update, and you also assist with that. So content editors, they're administering the meeting assignment sheet, know who's doing what. They're going to manage the people by each meeting. So if we're looking at the community corrections board, I'm the editor, I'm managing who's recording it, the logger, who's writing the meeting notes, and I'm making sure all those things are going to work together and come together within 48 hours after the meeting, because the idea is to turn it around fairly quickly. And then some of the tasks for the blogger, they'll be working on the report blog and then curating an email or newsletter out to communities of interest, including the media. So we are a pilot project and we are experimenting. And so there's a lot of ways to get this done, right? One traditional way could be you go in person, record on your phone, you did that. But also you can, like I said, cover things that are being streamed or already recorded. It could help with that on-the-job training, you know, to really hone in on what's important in a report. We might just send a recorder out to meetings, then have them upload that video. And then you, as a remote observer, can watch the meeting Sonia just recorded today. She doesn't have time to write the notes, but she went and she's going to share that. And then we have a report, right? We can pair people too. Someone who just wants to take notes, we'll go out with someone that wants to record the audio and video. That's an option. Or maybe just you're doing audio and taking your notes and you don't have any video. So how to report on a meeting. Put this up again just to kind of remind you about how everything is working together in these different roles to get this final report. So as I showed you, first thing is the assignment, right? I showed you the project website. When you are on that members page, right, there's the meeting assignment sheet. just to remind you, where you can look at this and be like, okay, I want to do that. So you would put a note in here, and I get updates when this sheet gets added to, so I'll see it.
By member, you're meaning league members?
Members of the website, members of the project. So you'll be able to create a login for the website with your regular email, Gmail, or Facebook. You can use any of those credentials, and then you'll be able to get to the resources that we just have for people working with us. So after you get your assignment, you will work with the assignment editor to confirm that meeting and how it's going to be covered. And then you're going to prepare. You're going to use those hyperlinks in that meeting assignment sheet to take a half hour to visit the website, find the meeting agenda, maybe a past packet, just to kind of get an idea of what you're doing and what's going to be on the agenda when you get there. And also just to review some basic information, what is the authority of this group? Who's on the board? Right? Because it is important when you're there to know who's absent and present. And a lot of times it's members of these boards that'll make comments when they vote yes or no, right? That is going to be of interest to the media in a report. So you'll review that information, and then you'll consult with the meeting notes template. And this will help you figure out how to do it. So I'll show you that. This link is also on the members page. This is the same link. So this is a work area for everybody. So how to take meeting notes with examples. This is adopted from the Documenters site and also from the experience of the League of Women Voters Observers program. And so this kind of takes you through step by step. You want to charge your devices, organize your information. Be sure to check your email before you go out on assignment, or text to make sure you didn't need to know anything from your editor, or maybe someone else is coming with you, just to kind of keep in the information loop there. You'll do your pre-research like we talked about. And also you're going to know your rights a little bit, right? We have information in your training and the right to record. We'll get into that in a minute. We have a video from Jeff to kind of explain that. But the public can attend most public meetings, but they're not always used to somebody being in there and recording it, right? So that's kind of a finesse thing where you introduce yourselves. Hey, is this okay? We want to come at it in a friendly manner, right? But you are protected to record these things technically, right? And so people will be empowered with kind of knowing the bounds of your rights. I would say generally, when you're recording, whether it's audio or video, it's just about the law's a little ambiguous. It's basically about being courteous about it, right? Not intruding on the meeting, obstructing any kind of information, right? So if you do it in that manner, you're in the good zone.
Let me just also interject that we will be notifying the agencies and the government that you're coming. So it won't be a surprise.
Yeah, we'll start to become a welcome fixture is my guess. I hope, yeah.
So this checklist, when you're on assignment, arrive a little early, figure out like where you're going to sit. If they give out documents at the meeting and not in advance, make sure you kind of scan those. We do not engage in public comment. You're welcome to like introduce yourself. Like sometimes there's the clerk is there or someone who's kind of running the meeting administratively. You might want to introduce at that point. Depends on how that board works, right? They're all going to be a little bit different. You can wear your badge to identify yourself. And if you do need to introduce yourself, we just have this little statement that kind of asserts who you are and your right to be there. And this is modeled after what the documenters do in their 7 cities that they work in and attend. So the basics, it's note-taking, right, during this meeting. And with the agenda and the packets available in advance now, it is a little easier to prepare. You can copy things over, know some of the big things that are happening and look out for those. I'll show you the notes template in a minute, but this is just kind of getting more into like the details of completing the assignment. So I'll show you the notes. We have some examples here on this guide and then some tips.
I think it could be worth saying that we're not expecting you all at this moment to like jump through all this by yourself and show up there and sign up and here we go.
we want a dialogue with each of you. And you're probably all wondering like, well, maybe I could, but I'm not sure if I would. And we'll have those conversations with you. We will get there. It's not all on you.
Right. I'm just trying to give the high level view of like the resources that we're pulling together and some guidelines for taking the notes.
Yeah, when we get rolling, what it looks like.
Yeah. And so then after you take the notes, I'll show you the template. And then you're going to kind of at the end do some of the summary that I talked about. What were the most important decisions? And do you have any extra questions to follow up on? Those are something that you'll submit on the meeting report form and maybe work with your editor to hash those out if it needs clarification before you do the report summary. And then this is the process for submitting your notes and your final report. Our notes template we want to go all the way. Tried to cover all the bases. So I know it's a lot of information, but we want to make sure people have all the info they need to launch and refer to on their own when they're not able to talk to someone or ask questions. So this is kind of going through those same steps I said before about the pre-research. This kind of gives you some guidance on the questions to ask before going in, right? To figure out what is this board doing? Who's going to be there? What's the focus of the meeting? It really helps to understand that and maybe write a few sentences about it before you go to kind of get it going. And then note taking, focus on direct quotes, if there's debates, decisions, some details. Afterwards, of course, you're going to revise, you're going to fact check, you're going to try to complete your draft within that time frame, gather relevant supporting materials, do your summary, meet with an editor, and use that report input form. So the template's pretty basic and it aligns with the report input form, but you'll just kind of document the basics about the meeting, and then you'll take notes, do the summary, and see if you have any follow-up questions. Show you some examples of notes. They can range. But really, we're looking for the big decisions that were made. If there was contention, if there was opposition. So I'll show you, these are some from our partners, the documenters, how they're writing the notes. And I like this format because it gives us context, right? So the idea is like, what's the scene? This is that summary of who this group is and what they're doing, who was at that meeting, and what's going to happen there. And then they went into how they reviewed the policies and kind of a list of the things that happened, right? The big takeaways of the information. And so you can do it like bullet points. Some people like to write a narrative, but this is a planning commission meeting, right? So a lot of those kind of meetings are going to be about numbers and technical things and so it's really going to vary based on the kind of meeting that you're covering. Always add hyperlinks if you can, so people can get more context. Because again, this meeting summary is kind of the detailed record that we're creating that's unique, that is not the meeting minutes, right? Because they're recording their own minutes, writing their own minutes. But a lot of times these boards don't publish them, or they publish them whenever, you know what I mean? They have to wait, they say they have to wait till the meeting minutes are approved at the next meeting. Technically, they don't have to. They could publish them as drafts, but many don't. So that means that meeting happened and no one knows what happened until a month later, right?
And that this is just the facts. This
Just
is
the
not
facts.
Opinions, this is not interpretation.
That is just the facts. So this slide, kind of sums up that process that I just quickly took you through. And then, again, reminding you, like, we do have these technology and tools. I won't get into that. But I think I've shared enough information about the process for now that we could take some questions. And then if people do have specific questions, I can go to some of those links in the meeting assignment sheet so you can kind of see how you're going to interact with the information that's provided by the government. the different governments. And I can also show you kind of the range of meetings that we're looking at too. So I think I'll pause and see if we have any questions. Yes.
I have a question about priorities. What is the goal, the priority, or the stated objective for it? You want to make it scalable, but are you focusing on a certain kind of meeting?
So a question in the room about what our priorities are if we're focusing on a certain kind of meeting. Well, we're keeping that open because we want to create a process where people can get to that good report, right? And so that's why we're asking you what you're interested in. I think I did a survey, the group did a survey of media outlets here in Larimer County, and I gave them this huge list of all the municipalities and all the different boards, and we got some input from them about what they think needs more coverage. So that combined with the interest of the observers, and then the other aspect of meetings that aren't live streamed, those kind of all come together to create the priorities. In this pilot, we are not going to dictate those because this project has to be flexible with who participates, you know, and so if you're interested in the Community Corrections Board, then that's what we're covering. And that's the report that we're going to get out. You know, we do have, like I said, feedback and priorities as far as what journalists said they wanted to know more about. So I will use that to populate the meeting assignment sheet and put those up as options. But people can also come directly and say, hey, I want to cover this. And we can make that work as well.
And the League of Women Voters has issues teams. So if we were deciding, because an observer is like, I'll go where you send me. Well, we have issues like affordable housing and if we see something that is going to be of interest to League, we may send you there. But there's also a lot of cities within Larimer County. This is a countywide project. And we've got Estes Park, Berthoud, Wellington, Timnath. There's hardly any reporting going on in those meetings. So if somebody was open, we might say, you know, please, could you show up to, you know, a Berthoud town hall where people haven't been before and they don't report. So we'll play that when we talk to you and see. Some people are red hot on a certain meeting already and others are curious about where they could be most needed.
And what is, I have, maybe I apologize, what is the next step that we are in?
We already have your email, but we could give you a call. We have a sign up, and so we can follow up and see what you're thinking.
Question in the room, someone has to leave, so they asked about next steps. The next steps we'll make sure we have everybody's contact info, and we'll follow up to gauge your interest and how you want to participate. And then we'll go from there and follow up personally with you. All right, we see some questions here in the chat.
We don't have questions, or we need to hear from the Zoom people also.
Yep, we have some.
Sign up if they would sign in the chat.
Right, so if you are in the Zoom and you didn't fill out our interest form and I don't have that info, I will share the link to that again. It's
contact information.
It's on the it's on our website as a header. It's pretty easy to find, but I will share that form too. Okay, so what are the next steps for those interested in participating? Next steps, like I said, it's going to be personal follow-up. I'll send out that, I'll give you that link to the form. The form is gauging what you're interested in, so we can start to figure out those assignments.
I'm just, what we're talking about also is, would you put your name and your contact information, whether you'd like to be contacted by email, by text. We'd like to talk to you. If we could just call you and talk with you, that's fine, but we need how to do that. So if you could put that in the chat, if you don't mind, and you can just send it privately to January if you want to.
Yeah, sure. But the form will kind of gauge, you can already suggest your meetings too. So that's also a good way, and we'll be following up. I think the next steps are going to be to see what level of participation people want to engage in, and then we'll do a virtual training session in the next couple weeks to get people going. In the meantime, I can share information based on one-on-one conversations. If you want to kind of like watch a meeting and try the report form and see if this is something that you really want to do, we can do it like that as well. Another question, what if you don't understand everything they talked about in the meeting? Yeah, nobody does. I mean, they're complicated. This is why the audio is super important, right? Because things go really fast. And, you know, they're using Robert's rules of order. They're making motions. Things get first reading, second reading, third reading before they're adopted, right? And so one of the training modules I'm developing is just about that, how to understand what is happening at a government meeting, some of those basic processes they go through, who's usually there, and more background about these different levels of boards and commissions and how to kind of understand what they're doing. So that is going to be part of the training. And then it's also part of like the meeting with the editor after you go, right? So then you can talk it out, and together with the editor, you guys can try to distill that information and get that 2-paragraph summary correct.
Something that I learned from the documenters was acronyms. It's fair to say, hold up, what's the acronym, and get that. I mean, we don't want to slow them down with a bunch of like understanding questions, but acronyms, hopefully they'll learn to be more polite when they have an observer in the room and help us out with some of the jargon.
Okay, and so another question, interested in the compensation, what would that take effect, and is there a flat rate? So the compensation is hourly. We expect a lot of meetings will take, I mean, if you have a 2-hour meeting, then we expect an hour for prep, an hour and a half to finish notes. But we're willing to work with people and figure out how long that actually takes, right? Part of this is to create a scalable model and get data points, you know? So if it takes you, 6 hours to get that meeting and those meeting notes processed, then that's what'll happen. So our compensation structure is $18 an hour. We have a training that is about 4 hours, and part of that is online. And then another part of that will be attending a couple meetings. And after you complete your first meeting report, you'll be given the training stipend for those 4 hours, which is $100. And so we just want to get people through the training into that first report, and then that's how you'll receive the compensation. When you put your meeting report in, there's a place for you to list your hours. So we can get more into that when people reach out to us and we talk to you about like what you're interested in doing and what your time frame is. But that's the general compensation structure. And again, it's on a per meeting basis that you'll submit hours. And we're running from April to the beginning, end of June, so that's roughly the time frame for people going and covering meetings. Another question here. When you say scalable, do you mean outside of Larimer County? Yes. And so this program, the Observer Corps, traditionally from the League of Women Voters, is national. Documenters is also national. The difference in this program, and one of the reasons Documenters is interested in being involved, is because they haven't tried this in a place that wasn't a big city, right? And so that's a big part of this, is like, how do you do this kind of coverage, get this kind of engagement in more rural areas, where the governments are all spread out. And so we're trying to take the lessons learned from this, get those tools. Does this report form work? Do we need more software? Do we need all those kind of things? Do we need to buy equipment, right? So people can record these better. That's another aspect that we're experimenting with. But the Colorado League of Women Voters is really interested in this, and that's one of our project partners too.
And I can speak to that. The Colorado League of Women Voters is an umbrella organization that covers 19 local leagues. Larimer County is one of those leagues. Other leagues are over, towards Grand Junction. We got West Slope. We got all over the state. It is a Colorado project. I don't so far see this leveling past state lines because all the partners involved are Colorado partners. So we're specific to the state, but yes, our dream is that we will be supplying observers across the state in all the places that League is available to help us.
Question in the room? Yeah.
What happens after June? It's April to June. And then
Hopefully, we've proven ourselves that then we're reaching to those 19 leagues across the state and asking them if they could gather observers and we can carry on. Hopefully the observers we built in Larimer will stay with us and we carry on. Or we all go home. But we're pretty confident.
A lot of this too is just, as January said, it's a learning process and a pilot. So we are collecting data as we go, what works, and what doesn't work, so that we can evaluate at the end of June to see what we carry forward and how.
Hopefully it's a party.
All right. So the question was, what happens after June? So I think you probably heard Jane and Sonia's answer, which is that we're going to figure that out based on what happened, but we have a lot of interested partners. And as we go through the next couple of months and we're launching, we're also doing sustainability planning and figuring out, okay, where's the best home for this? Where's the infrastructure? Where are the resources? We have some good financial models from the documenters. They know how to start up a program, how many people it takes, and that kind of budgeting. So we have a lot of resources in that department as we move forward to plan more for sustainability.
Jeanette has her hand up. Up in the left corner. Oh.
Yeah, Jeanette, did you want to put a question into did you?
No, I didn't have a question. I just wanted to say thank you so much for this project. I do think it's scalable. I'm super excited to have that next step chat with you guys. And so, yeah, I just want to say thank you for hosting.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a couple other questions. What are the legal risks for documenters in the league? I will show you a video now about that from the Colorado Freedom of Information Coalition. Jeff has prepared some things that you need to know when you're going into these situations and about your rights. So I'll show that in just a second. And then there's another question. What about covering metro districts and HOA meetings? Oh man, I don't know if we want to get into the HOAs. That's a mess. No, we're just going to say no on that. But yes, metro districts, right? Because there's special districts that, fire protection districts, river districts, those kind of things. Those are very undercovered and they cover big regions. So yeah, we're very open to metro districts and special districts as meeting coverage as well.
Before you show that, can you ask Rachel if she can turn the volume down from where she's doing it?
Yeah, it's just going to be loud in this room. It's because of the settings. Zoom I can't change it. Hold on a second. Let me,
Yeah, is there something I can do?
I don't know. Can you control the volume?
Let me try. I'll look into it and let you keep going, but I'll look into it right now.
Okay, because my volume is not controllable. I think the volume is fine on Zoom. It's just the room is going to be a little loud.
The room is loud and there's a book club next door who really doesn't like us.
Well, also, because we're recording, I can't get into settings.
Right, I know.
I apologize, y'all.
No, it's fine. I mean, look at us doing a hybrid meeting. Who else has done this? I mean, come on. This stuff's complicated. So Jeff is such a great partner and he has made this video for us. It's also on Jeff's website and posted there as well. This is his YouTube channel, the Colorado Freedom of Information Coalition's YouTube channel. He's always providing a lot of good resources.
I'm Jeff Roberts, Executive Director of the Colorado Freedom of Information Coalition. And this is a short introduction to the Colorado Open Meetings Law. The voters of Colorado initiated the Open Meetings Law about 50 years ago as part of the Sunshine Act of 1972. The law begins with a powerful statement. It is declared to be a matter of statewide concern and the policy of this state that the formation of public policy is public business and may not be conducted in secret. That means public bodies like city councils, school boards, town boards, county commissions, and the Colorado General Assembly are required to conduct the public's business in the open. For a local public body, open meetings are required when there is a quorum or at least 3 members present, whichever is fewer. For a state public body, it's at least 2 members. For a meeting to be open to the public, it must pertain to public business and there must be a demonstrated link between the content of the meeting and the public body's policy-making responsibilities. So 3 members of a board getting together to talk about the Broncos or their kids is not an open meeting. But a discussion of the city budget certainly is. Open meetings must be preceded by full and timely notice to the public with specific agenda information where possible. Public bodies are permitted to close the door for an executive session to discuss only a few authorized topics, such as the proposed purchase or sale of property, specialized details of security arrangements, personnel matters, negotiation strategies, and legal matters that require legal advice from their attorney. A school board can meet confidentially to discuss individual students. Before voting to go into executive session, the public body must announce the particular matter to be discussed in as much detail as possible without compromising the purpose for which the executive session is authorized. Announcing the particular matter with specificity serves 3 interrelated purposes. It provides the public with specific information as to what their public officials will be discussing behind closed doors. It creates a more effective mechanism for policing whether public bodies have complied with their obligation to vote on discussing specific topics outside of public view. And it helps public officials avoid straying into topics that are not authorized for executive session discussions. Making decisions generally is not permitted in executive sessions. The Open Meetings Law states, no adoption of any proposed policy, position, resolution, rule, regulation, or formal action, except the approval of executive session minutes, shall occur at any executive session that is not open to the public. In 2007, the Colorado Supreme Court held that even informal decision-making on important policy questions is not allowed behind closed doors. Sometimes you see members of a public body come out of an executive session and immediately vote on a matter with little or no public discussion. That can be a pretty strong indication a decision was made during the executive session. But audio recordings of executive sessions are rarely released. A lawsuit filed in district court is really the only way to make an executive session recording public unless the public body itself decides to do it. Your right to record a meeting of a public body isn't as absolute as you might think. The Open Meetings Law is silent on whether the public can record a public meeting, and there isn't much case law in Colorado on the subject. However, multiple court cases in other states have set a precedent to allow recording, and other states have recognized the public's right under the First Amendment to record video or audio public meetings that are on public property and concern a public interest. Public bodies are permitted under some of these rulings to place reasonable restrictions on when or how video recording can occur. But these time, place, and manner restrictions must be drawn up narrowly. If a restriction is placed, it must apply equally to everybody and every meeting, not just to certain individuals or certain meetings. For example, it's reasonable to request that someone record from the back or side of the room instead of the middle, so that the view of the audience members isn't blocked. The open meetings law also is silent on whether the public should be given an opportunity to comment on issues during meetings of a public body. Boards, commissions, and councils typically set their own ground rules for letting the public speak during designated portions of meetings, but the rules cannot be operated in a discriminatory or viewpoint restricted way. Governments can enforce reasonable restrictions applied evenly to speakers, such as limiting the time allowed per speaker and removing a speaker who causes a disturbance. Noteworthy is a recent ruling in Massachusetts. The state Supreme Court declared unconstitutional a town's public comment policy requiring comments to be respectful and courteous, free of rude, personal, or slanderous remarks. Civility, the court held, can't be required in a public comment session of a governmental meeting. One other important thing to know when you attend meetings of public bodies: you are entitled to request copies of any materials used by the council or board during the meeting. Under the Colorado Open Records Act, those materials are no longer protected work product prepared to help elected officials make decisions once they are produced and distributed to members of the public body for their use in a public meeting. Many, but not all public bodies post agenda materials on their websites prior to meetings so the public can read any proposals under discussion. For more information about your rights under the Colorado Open Meetings Law and the Colorado Open Records Act, visit CFOIC's free online Sunshine Laws Guide at coloradofoic.org.
Okay, well, I think we've kind of gone over most of the agenda. Do we have any other questions or general discussion before we wrap up? I'll just kind of summarize again as the follow-up. You've shared your contact information. I'll be reaching out to everyone who has shown interest that could join today or didn't. I'll be sending the next steps for engagement and also a recording of this meeting with Jeff's presentation in for those that were on Zoom and didn't get to see it. Then we can go from there. The idea is that we'll be following up with people individually. And in that email, we'll also share a couple dates for our first training.
I'm also curious to know who in the room and on Zoom does not live in Fort Collins. Do we have people on the edges of Larimer County? Anyone attending? Kathy Maher, she's Loveland.
I'm in Loveland.
Okay. Adams County, okay. All right, it's good to know distances for the people that might go to meetings in person. That's great to know. Also, we're hopeful in the next couple of weeks that you will maybe hop on to the video of a meeting that January showed us as practice and try your hand at writing.
Someone got to help you?
Doing a summary.
And you all have the website?
The
URL.
citizenobservers.co. What was that website? It's citizenobservers.co. So it's singular citizen, plural observers. Is that .co? Just CO. It's, I think it's a new thing. CO?
It's for Colorado.co. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you.